So the first round of funding that I raised was in 2012, and it was by winning a reality TV show called The Big Break Legacy. So I entered this. It was kind of like um, you know, like a survivor type thing for entrepreneurs. And they had 12 people, and you had to get to the end of it by solving different challenges. And I managed to win this show and get 5 million bucks. So that was very weird, and I wouldn't recommend that. I think there's a lot of survivorship bias. Like I just lucked out and managed to win that show. But with the point that that illustrates is just like how little angel and early stage funding there was in South Africa back in 2012. I think there's 10 to 100 times more now, but I don't really know how to get that first round of funding because I never really did it. Right. I kind of won a reality TV show, which was weird. But then I have raised sort of seed Series A-ish funding from institutional investors. And if I have to give some tactical advice there, I think it's quite similar to enterprise sales. The analogy is there in that you've got to run a very disciplined process and follow the playbook. And if you look at your kind of Series A or seed round funding playbook, organizations like Y Combinator have that playbook very well mapped out. So, Y Combinator, for example, have Startup School and they teach you how to do fundraising. And I would just really recommend to founders that they go and educate themselves on the process and the tactics of fundraising, because there is kind of a lot to it that's quite counterintuitive. And when you're raising funding, the investor does this for a living, and you as a founder CEO are doing it in your spare time, maybe for the first time. So it's an extremely unequal relationship. You're doing something that's like life-changingly important, which is bringing capital into your business. The investor does this all the time for a living, and you're doing it for the first time ever. So just acknowledging that you're ignorant and don't know what you're doing in this domain is the start. And then the second thing is going and educating yourself about the playbook. And that playbook is things like developing your fundraising deck and getting the story and the pitch tight. Once you've gotten people interested, it's about running a disciplined and systematic process with the right timelines and the right competitive structure. So the sort of things that go wrong in fundraising, just to go from start to finish, is your pitch might suck, and the only way you're going to know that is by putting it together today and having and practicing it and improving it. Then your process might be bad. So you might have investors who love your business, but if you run a sloppy or disorganized process, then you'll end up not creating competitive tension around the deal. So you want lots of investors interested at the same time because that's going to create competition and is going to make the deal close quicker, and at a higher price. If you let it get away from you and you run a poor process, you might end up with only one or two interested parties. Then the deal is going to lag and take a long time, and you're going to get a poor valuation and poor terms. I mean, talking valuation and terms, that's also, the actual structure of the deal is incredibly important. Get great advisors, get a good lawyer who knows how to do this stuff. And then when you get into closing, then you better be sure you've got a decent legal team around you and good advisors who understand all the complicated terms that you've never seen before, but the investor works with all the time, closing all those legal documents off. And then there's a process after you've signed everything to actually get your money of all of the post-closing items and so on. So it's just, I guess the main advice is it's 10 times more complicated and tactical than you think. So get good advisors, understand the process, run a disciplined process, and give it you're going to have to give it your full time and attention, unfortunately, and that's pretty tough when you're trying to also close customers and build a product and get your branding and marketing right. But it's gonna be an overwhelmingly all-consuming process to raise money. That's the way I've experienced it, and the business is going to kind of come second while you're busy closing that. So if you can just give it that focused attention and get it done, that's going to be all the better for you and for the business. But yeah, it's doable and you can learn how to do it, but the starting point is just the humility to say, I don't know what I'm doing, I've got to learn from scratch. And then maybe the last point is just like a very tactical one, is make friends with other CEOs who've done it already. So like my specific tactic was I cold emailed and in-mailed a whole bunch of CEOs who'd raised money from the investors I wanted to raise money from. And I said, look, I'm raising money. I want your advice about the investors out there who are funding people in this space. Can I meet with you? And I got about a 50% positive response from the CEOs that I approached, because CEOs want to help other CEOs. If I get a cold request from a founder CEO who says, "Look, I'm raising money. These are the kind of investors I want to meet. Can you give me some advice?" I'm gonna, if there's any credibility there, I'm gonna say yes, of course, I'd love to help you. People don't reach out enough and ask for that sort of help from people who've done it before. Um, you know, uh, Reach out to me on LinkedIn, on email. If you're a founder raising in this space in South Africa, I'm happy to help. So, ask questions, make friends, figure it out.